And you're listening to 2GLF 89.3 FM. Welcome back to the Relationship Whisperer Show with Miss Dragonfly, where we discuss all things relationships with the aim to make marriage great again. And as I am an astrologer as well as a relationship expert, in my show, I usually go through a chart reading where it be someone famous, someone in the news, or a celebrity relationship or marriage. Okay, because astrology and relationships and marriage actually have a lot to do with each other. And as I explained in my past shows, astrology can work out and can show whether or not a couple will be compatible with each other. We'll actually predict how well they'll get along and whether or not they are beneficial for each other. And also, as a general reading, we can try to decipher and say when certain things have happened to someone and why that's happened to someone then. And of course, chart the course of when and show when they're more likely to be successful. Okay, and as with a lot of things, it will show up when you're at your strong point and when you are at your weak point. And your strong point meaning when are you going to have things go your way? That's your strong point. And your weak point is when things tend to go against you. So that's when no matter what you try, things just doesn't seem to work. You don't seem to be able to pull it off. And I guess for a lot of us, and looking back, we can kind of like say, yeah, you remember that? You know, that time in your life when it doesn't seem no matter what you do, nothing worked. And other times when it seems, wow, this seems so easy. You try this, it worked. Try that, it worked. You know, everything seems to be so lucky and things just seem to come together. But and a lot of people dismiss it and say, oh, because of them, their efforts and so forth. Well, if you're with your efforts, you're the same person, then how come you can do it in certain periods and be successful, but with other periods, how come it didn't work? And you failed. Same person, you know, you make your same decisions, same qualifications, actions, but how come sometimes it seems to work for you and sometimes it doesn't? You know? See, and so that is the point where we say, obviously, sometimes when you're strong, things go against you, and other times when you're weaker and things don't seem to happen for you, it seems to go against you. And it's like trying to run uphill. Okay, and so that is the type of thing. And recently, we've heard on the news that Tim Tszyu, an Australian boxer that is the son of the great Costa Tszyu, that was very successful, was world champion. And Tim Tszyu was also world champion. It's basically undefeated until that Saturday, the 30th of March, where he lost his title, his world title. And it was quite a freakish event. Apparently on the second round, a straight elbow from his opponent and challenger, Sebastian Fundora, connected with his head and caused a big gash on his head. And then the blood started spewing down. And apparently the doctor said, yeah, he'll still find it to continue fighting, even though he had blood running down him. And I'm surprised. I don't know why they didn't at least bandage it up so the blood does in his corner. So the blood doesn't keep coming down his face and into his eyes, which, can you imagine bleeding on the top of your head and down your face and even into your eye, and you still have to keep fighting or for a common person to continue with your task? It's very difficult. One, it's very annoying, okay, because you've got something there keep running down. And secondly, you still got to see it can affect your eyesight. And then apparently he lost because of that on points in the rest of the match, even though he started off doing quite well. So that is a point when he said, And from what I've heard, if the doctor, or if they stopped the fight then, after he got the gash, it would have been counted as a no match. Okay, so that wasn't done for some reason. And they got him to continue fighting, which in hindsight was a very bad idea for him. Great for his opponent. Now his opponent is world champion, having won that. But so, wonder what happened, why those strange things just started happening on that day where he lost, where no one expected him to lose. People expected him to win. That was based on his skills and the skill of his opponent, if you did a comparison. So what we're going to do today is we are going to look into Tim's chart, and in particular on that day, what happened, and also have a look at his opponent, whether or not things were more happening for his opponent on that day, whether or not his opponent was stronger on that day than Tim is. So we'll go to some music, and we'll be right back with looking at Tim Tszyu's charts, and in particular that day, what happened to him on that day. Now, Tim Tszyu, the boxer, and until Saturday was world champion. And unfortunately for him, he lost that match, the first in his professional career, and also losing his world title because of that match. And as I said previously, it was under rather unfortunate and rather unusual circumstances that he lost the match. I mean, what happened was, he was bleeding. His opponent, Sebastian Fundora, with a straight elbow, created a big cut on his head. And he was bleeding through that. Now, Fundora is like a good 20 centimeters taller than Tim. So that's how he's able to, with his elbow, put a cut on Tim's head. And, throughout the whole rest of the fight, they still allowed Tim to continue, which in hindsight they shouldn't have. Should have stopped there, and it would have been a no match. And then he would not have had the blood running down his face, hindering his performance the rest of the night. And I have no idea why they didn't at least bandage it up. I'm not familiar with boxing and the rules, but I don't know why they didn't do that. I don't know if you're allowed to do that or not. I can't see a reason why they shouldn't. Maybe they could have some reason about safety or something like that. Who knows? Okay, now, why did he lose that night? And because those unusual circumstances that people have agreed on, that's why he lost. Otherwise, everyone was betting on him that you're saying that he should win and retain his title based on the ability of both fighters. So, looking at Tim, the date of birth we have for him, he was born on the 2nd of November 1994 at 10:05 a.m. in Sydney. Now, during that time in Australia, there is daylight saving during the summer. And so because of that, we have to adjust the time. So now he's taking a bit of the time off that. So his year pillar then is Yang Wood Dog. His month pillar is Yang Wood Dog again. And his day pillar is Yang Water Dragon. And his hour pillar is Yin Wood Snake. So 2 dogs, 2 Yang Woods. And his day master is Yang Water. So what does that mean? Well, it means that he has followed the power chart. He likes earth, okay, even though he's water. Now, looking back at his history, he started boxing at 15. And at that time, he would be in the Yang Fire Rat luck cycle. Now, yang fire is good for him. As they're saying, his elements, his favorable elements in order would be earth, fire, metal, water, and then wood. So his two best is earth and fire. The two worst is water and wood, and metal is neutral. So the time he started boxing at 15, yang fire, rat. So fire was the favorable element, rat not so much. And so he turned in December 2016. That's when he turned pro, became a pro boxer. And that was in this current luck cycle, which started in 2016, of yin, fire, ox. So notice the fire again is his favorable element, and ox is mainly earth, which is also his favorable element. That's the first favorable element. And so through that time, look, since then he's been boxing pro, he hasn't lost a match. And so clearly you can see that the fire and the ox has been supporting him. However, this current luck cycle for him won't end until 2025. So then begs the question, why did he lose if he's still in his favorable luck cycle? So then we have to look at the date of the match. Now, the 30th of March, 2024, what you have on that day is Yin Water Snake Day. And it was in the rabbit month in a dragon year. Okay. So, and also as I heard, Sebastian Fundora was not supposed to be the person he was to fight with. It was supposed to be Keith Thurman, but it was replaced at almost like the last minute, like 12 days before the match. It was replaced because apparently Thurman, the other boxer, had some injury, and so it was replaced by Sebastian Fundora. So lots of things that happened there that were quite unusual with this bout that he lost. So on that day, he ended up fighting Fundora. Circumstances happened around that he fought Fundora. Now, that day, the Snake Day and Rabbit Month, he end up with a rabbit, okay, combining with his dog. You know, he does have two dogs, and that produces fire, though it's not the money type. Now, the rabbit also locks up the dog, and so the dragons actually win. Now, the thing is, he has two dogs in his chart and one dragon. So you had two dogs against one dragon, and this year is another dragon. It's a dragon year. So then you have two dogs and two dragons. So what that really means is before it was quite simple, the dogs overtaking the dragon. But this year he's got the equal number of dogs and equal number of dragons. So there is a friction there because also the nature of them are earths, and they're also known as earth penalties. And it's just like now you've got even armies facing off against each other. Before it was a larger army against a smaller army. So that was pretty much, you get the result, and I guess easily defeated. And so things were more stable insane, but now you've got equal numbers on each side, so I guess the war, so to speak, keeps raging on. So that creates friction for him for 2024. Because of that, the dragons facing off with the dogs. And you had, also the rabbit locking up the dog. Now, the snake itself is actually a good element. It is fire in nature, and fire is his second best element. So it's not because of the snake per se, but then it all gets locked away by the dogs. we're just saying, yeah, it gets captured by the dog, hit the fire, and then it's locked away by the rabbit. So his help there with the fire is not there. Now, also, there is a concept of what we call dry earth and wet earth. And dry earth, as you know, no moisture, barren earth, heat, as everyone knows it. And wet earth is more productive, so to speak, because wet, it can grow things, it can produce wood in terms of plants, living earth, so to speak. And dragon is actually wet earth, okay, because it does have water inside, hidden water. And and when it combines with the, say, a rat or a monkey, then it produces water. So it's basically wet earth. That's why we call it wet earth. However, Tim likes the dog's dry earth. He's got 2 dogs in his chart. So we follow the nature of the chart, what the chart wants to be. And with his chart, he likes the dog, and dogs are dry earth. It has hidden some metal and hidden fire, no water. So dry earth there. And really, because of that, the water is actually too strong because of the dragons, because of that wet earth there. And also, snake actually combines with ox. Now, he's in the ox luck cycle, and the ox is normally earth in nature. However, in a combination with either the snake or the rooster, or if both of them are present, we call it a full combination, 3 harmony combination, and that produces metal. So the ox in his luck cycle at the moment combines with the snake on that day, the 30th of March, and to produce metal. And metal, of course, metal is a neutral element for him. However, metal supports water. And that's going to support, that metal is going to support that wet earth dragon more, that water that's inherent in there. So that wasn't a good day for him at all. And if I was going to advise him, I would tell him not to, I would have told him not to select that day. You see, this is the thing. Besides the astrology, we also do date selection to select the day that would be favorable to you. So for him, Tim, it's earth and fire. So we're more likely to select a day that would support him, that has an abundance of earth and fire. Okay, without transforming anything, doing a combination like it did on that day, the snake, while it was fire in nature, when combined with the ox of his luck cycle, produced metal which supported the water, which he does not like at all, which is bad for him. So that's why date selections are also very important. But then I also thought, what about his opponent? You know, would his opponent also have a hand in, or because of his opponent, added to his problem on that day for him losing? Because, like I was saying, based on ability alone, everyone expected Tim to win, to beat Fundora. So I had a look at Fundora's chart as well. Now, Fundora was born on the 28th of December 1996. Unfortunately, his time of birth is not available, so we can only go off 3 pillars, not the 4. So 25% of the chart of the information is missing, but we have to make do with what we've got. You know, sometimes the hour pillar changes the chart, and sometimes it doesn't. So we just hope that it wouldn't have changed the chart in this case. So from those birth details, we're able to generate the chart, and his year pillar is Yang Fire Rat. His month pillar is Yang Metal Rat. His day pillar is Yin Earth Pig. Okay, so Fundora, his is basically following wealth. That's his chart type. And so his favorable elements would be water and metal. Like I say, he does have metal in there, and 2 rats. Rats are pure water. And the pig is mostly water. There is little bit of hidden wood in the pig, but by and large, it's mostly water. So this is, would say, a water guy. And remember what I said about Tim? He doesn't like water. So it looks quite ominous. And the current fate cycle for Fundora is yin water rabbit. Again, water. Now, the rabbit, as I said, mentioned previously, locks Tim's dogs. So a rabbit, on one hand, you've got the rabbit coming from Fundora's luck cycle, and March, when the match was held, was also a rabbit month. So you've got 2 rabbits there, and Tim's 2 dogs would lock up Tim's 2 dogs. So that's his power gone. And Tim's fate cycle, the luck cycle, where there's an ox, that actually also combines with Fundora's pig and rat in Fundora's chart. And those 3 form what we call a seasonal combination of water. And that makes water very, very strong. And so what do you have? You've got metal from Fundora's chart, and also all this water that happens combining with Fundora's chart itself, and combines with the day of that, locks up Tim's power. So even though Tim's Daymaster is water, it's yang water, water is actually very bad for him. It's actually his second worst element. The worst would have been wood, as I say, and of course, the rabbit is pure wood as well. So rabbit also from Fundora's luck cycle, and rabbit month. The month of March is a rabbit month. So all in all, from the astrology here, we can see exactly why Tim lost on that day. Would have helped a little bit if it was another day. However, there's a bigger problem. Fundora, his present luck cycle of the yin water rabbit, means he's still going to have power over Tim. Okay, until he's out of this present luck cycle. And unfortunately, Fundora began this luck cycle in 2019, and luck cycles run for 10 years. So up until 2028 will be Fundora's current luck cycle lasts. It'll run till then. So after the match, there was immediate talk, of course, of a rematch. And apparently there was some verbal gentleman's agreement that there would be a rematch between Tim and Fundora, no matter what the outcome is. And there was a dispute, even though it wasn't written down. And so they're pushing for the rematch because of this unusual circumstances that happened with Tim getting that deep gash in his head that ended up blocking his vision or affecting his vision for that day. However, I would advise Tim that's probably not a good idea, especially this year, and especially with Fundora while he's in this present luck cycle. And with Fundora, there was talk that there was 2 other fighters that he's almost ordered that he has to defend his title that he's just won against. One was Keith Thurman that was supposed to have fought Tim and then had the injury and didn't. And the other thing was, and another fighter, I can't remember who it was. And there was more talk coming out that Tim is actually on medical suspension until May. And Sebastian is on some type of suspension himself that he can't fight until November. Now, I'm not sure what the reason why he's not allowed to fight until after November. But anyway, that would be better off for Tim, I would say. And unfortunately for Tim, this match has really thrown a spanner in the works for him. For a boxer, as I understand it, to lose a fight, no matter what the circumstances on paper, if he's lost it, that's his record. And that really reflects badly for him. So while it seems unfair, but the reality is the road back for Tim to come back from this loss. He can come back, but it's going to take a lot more effort and from him to do that. And he has to keep winning all bouts around the way. Though with Tim, I really advise him to get a date selection done before he fights again, and particularly his opponents. Yeah, have it checked on your opponents before you fight again. And this is a big thing. It's like I've said before. Sometimes when things go your way, and sometimes when they don't go your way, and that's how astrology can pick it. And this case with Tim Tszyu clearly demonstrates that. One, the timing, and secondly, who your opponent is, who you're up against. And it doesn't have to be in just boxing or sports. It can be in whatever it is. I mean, if you're doing business and going against a competitor, so to speak, if you're going to be doing the same thing they are, choose when you're strong and they're weak. So you're likely to overtake them. And also, if it's a corporate career, who you're going to, or whose job you're aiming for, do it for when you make the move, when you're strong and the person that you want to unseat is in a weaker time, weaker cycle. And that happens a lot with politics. And no doubt, clearly, if there are leadership challenges and things like that, do it when the person that you want to knock off is in their weak period as well. And I guess, you know what? I suspect a lot of these politicians, even though they say and disparage astrology, they don't believe it, or it's all nonsense, or whatever it is, I bet everything that they personally use it. And I've recently heard, come to light, that yes, all those very strong historical figures have used astrology. And can you believe it? Hitler and Stalin used astrology all the time. And apparently Hitler would not do anything without checking with his astrologer first. And of all things, you wouldn't have guessed it, but his astrologer, his pet astrologer that he kept to do all the selections for him, timing and so forth, was Jewish. Now, just process that. So, and yeah, even Stalin as well. Like I was saying, even though it's communist, and you know, communist is very anti-religion and astrology or any esoterics, and they say that's nonsense, that's misleading people and cheating people. However, they secretly do it themselves. And a lot of people don't know, but you know, feng shui actually comes from China, originally in ancient China, from Taoism again. And the emperors, particularly one of the emperors back then, could see how powerful a tool feng shui was. And because, of course, if you're in power, you want to retain power. Any advantage you have or any tool that you have, you don't want anyone else to have it. You want it all just for yourself. And because of that, he had ordered the feng shui masters then to write out fake feng shui books and disseminate and distribute it. So all the fake stuff is now out in the community and the public. And so it's very hard to decipher and know which is real and which is not anymore. The only way you can do that to know is basically to try it out and see what works and what doesn't. So the good feng shui practitioners would be the ones that have tested it all. And that would take years, I gather, if they bother to do that. So it's a matter of asking them how many years they've been doing it at, and also whether or not they've tested it. And I suspect because they want to sell you the business, they say they do, but you can pretty much tell depending on, have a bit of questioning and their past work as well. And because of that, traditionally, feng shui has always just been practiced by men because, contrary to a lot of beliefs, it's not about feelings or feeling energies or anything like that. It's mathematics. And because of that, it's kind of like a STEM subject: science, technology, engineering, mathematics, where men usually are the ones going to those fields now. Back then, feng shui was a STEM, regarded as a STEM subject, and so that's why only men went into it. Okay, but that's one thing. But even like the astrology, it's been a lot, it faced a lot of criticism and people calling it nonsense. But you know what? All the higher ups and people that are in power, they use it. And straight off, you can say it's Hitler. That's why he had so much success. So I'm not sure what happened if he actually had his astrologer for the whole of the time that he was operating, or maybe his astrologer, he lost his astrologer towards the end. And of course, sometimes no matter how good your astrologer is, he can only interpret. And if that time, that cycle that you're going to that period where things are going against you, there's not much you can do, okay, rather other than lay low. So I guess that time, I haven't looked at Adolf Hitler's chart, but I suspect the time when his star was fading, his power was fading, that's when he was losing his advantage, and I guess his strong phase. It was probably going into his weak phase where things were going against him, and I guess that's why he started losing. Like, we all go through it. Like, even if you just look back in your life, and you can see there were some times when you were strong and sometimes you were weak, no matter what you tried to do. And I guess this was one of the cases. All right? So we'll go to some music now and we'll be right back with more. Now, to make marriage great, what's the first thing you have to do, really? A lot of people don't think about it, and I can't see any relationship advice out there actually advising this thing, but it's so, to me, so obvious. And it's actually very simple. It's almost like relationship 101 or marriage 101. And even, I was surprised, even Jordan Peterson hasn't given out this advice, or maybe it hasn't even occurred to him. And that is, you need to marry the right partner. You need to choose the right partner in the first place as a foundation, because that sets the tone for everything. If it's a right partner, it's very little effort. If it's the wrong partner, you have to do a lot more effort if it's an incompatible match. And with anything that's hard, you can't keep it up. And anything that's easy, you can keep it up for a long time, can you? It's just like any other task we do. And I know it sounds like common sense, but you'd be amazed that not many people even think of it. Well, I haven't heard of anyone thinking of that. And it's a common sense, but no one thinks of it and no one points it out. Or until someone says it and then, oh, that's obvious. But you didn't think of it until you were told, were you? Did you? Okay, and that is why, because people don't think about that, they marry the wrong partner. And this is the thing, people marry the wrong partner for that reason. And it's clear that they do, but as evident by our high divorce rates, it's something like 50% in the Western world. And all coming from a large part from marrying the wrong partner, because they don't know how to identify the right partner. And why do we marry the wrong partner in the first place? Well, it's because people are trained by society or the media, or what they've been told is to choose a partner based solely on short-term romantic feelings rather than taking a long-term view. You know, with anything, if something you're going to do long-term or want it to last a long-term, you have to take a long-term view. Very obvious, but surprisingly, not many people do it when it comes to relationships. And the reality is the biggest influence on your life and how your life turns out is the partner you choose in life. It definitely hasn't been given as much importance, weight, or significance that it needs to be. Okay, if you look back on all your relations that you've had, you will see that the dynamics of each relationship was different. Okay, and how your life was when you were with them was different with every single partner. Yeah? You think back to that time. And the thing is, it's all because, well, at least in Western culture that we're not taught what is important, in a marriage, in a relationship. So without any guidance, we just make decisions based on how we feel without knowing what other factors to consider or even that we should consider them. Because of that, we have a very self-centered society and culture, all about living in the moment and what amuses and appeals to us now. And someone that would make you laugh. You keep hearing when you ask people, what would you like? And it's like, well, more often than not, they'll include someone with a sense of humor, as if that's very important or significant. But I guess if you keep hearing the same thing, you're not sure what you want. So you take that and think that should be the correct one. How many times have you heard women say tall, dark, and handsome with a sense of humor? Well, what does that mean? Or how does that work in a relationship? Because really, we just choose a partner that appeals to us, like handsome, or have certain talents, like can play the guitar, or be an art painter, or singer, that sort of thing. Yeah, those people are quite popular, and you enjoy being around them. So that's enjoying being around that person that plays the guitar. Imagine life with that person that plays the guitar. Well, they don't think about, are you going to spend the rest of your life just listening to him playing the guitar or her playing the guitar? And what about everything else? Or someone charming, or the one with a hot body or nice features. Okay, that appeals to us because people can't help it, because it's human nature. We like to be around pretty things and entertaining things, don't we? So I really can't fault people because of that, but people need to realize that those things do not amount to a long-term relationship, least of all a marriage. It's not a recipe for a successful one. Can be entertaining, but that's not the all and be all. People need to understand that there's a lot more that you need to consider. Because you just can't choose people based on external or rather superficial things, like those things that I mentioned, artistic ability or nice appearance. But because of that, women often reject a stable relationship in favor of the exciting bad boy. You keep hearing about that. Like, women don't like nice guys. They keep going for the bad boy. Or men like the exciting, beautifully maintained woman, or the wild, free-spirited woman. Yeah? The thing is, the person that's great to date is not necessarily the person you should marry. Heard of the term not marriage material? Yes, that fun, exciting person may not be marriage material. That is, do they have the qualities that make a good partner to live with? People give no thoughts as to what they would like to live with. How would they function in everyday life? So that businessman that travels all around the world may seem exciting, or that talented musician that plays great music seems great to be around, but how will you feel when he constantly travels and is never home? Okay. Or can you see that musician doing something as mundane as taking out the garbage? how would you feel if he doesn't? Because then that job needs to be done anyways. And so if he won't do it, then you're going to have to. How would you feel then? It might be a little thing for you, but then taken together with so many other things in life on top that he won't do, but then you have to. So your little irritation is going to mount up until you can no longer tolerate it. You having to do everything, and all he does is keep playing the guitar. When it once sounded so good and pleasant, now that guitar playing sounds irritating, and it irritates you hearing it while you have to do all the tasks because he won't do it. This is a big reality check. And will that talented and hot body pick up the kids or change a nappy? Or be able to, or be inclined to deal with all the other mundane stuff in life that is important, like worrying about and dealing with the bills? Because if they don't, then everything is going to end up falling to you to do. And you're going to start feeling resentment. Because then all their talents and good looks would no longer make any difference to you. And you will find that those attributes that you once were so hot over, well, no longer appeals to you now. And this is the thing. If you marry a singer, then that's what you're going to get. Someone that sings very well. So don't expect that type of person will also be able to solve life's problems for you. Or even be able to do more mundane stuff like fixing the toilet or changing a car tire. How would you feel if you get a flat tire and your male partner is unwilling or unable to change it? You will have to then try to organize someone to come around and do it. And even aside from a flat tire, what if the lawn needs to be mowed? Would your singer partner be willing to do that? Then how would you feel about your partner if it constantly falls to you to get things fixed or handled yourself because he's unable or unwilling to do it? Or he says he doesn't have time because he's too busy off in another singing gig or playing the guitar. The truth is you will get increasingly frustrated with your partner, and because of that, you are going to lose respect for them. So it's very simple. If you want someone for a certain job, then you would need to find someone that can do the job. 101. Because if you want a partner for a certain purpose, in this case, going through life with you, then you need to choose someone with the skills for that. And in this case, the skills and drive to deal with life and the curveballs that it throws. And so you'd even be able to thrive in life if you had the right partner. And on that, we'll go to some music and we'll be right back with more where I will continue with this. It's a very important subject. Now, another thing with choosing the right partner to make marriage great is that when you choose a partner, you have to make sure that they want the same things in life that you do. Do they? In the initial dating stage was where you were just preoccupied with having fun, and you might have found them funny and charming, which is nice, but life is not just fun and games. Because once you are past that stage, will you go the distance together if you want different things in life? There might be a drifter and want to go clubbing all the time while you get worried and want to achieve things and build a nest egg. Very few people think about this factor when choosing a partner, but it is so important when you are living with someone, sharing a life, and living with them for years. And this is why people will marry the wrong partner. They just don't think how that person will do in everyday life and how it would work once your life are completely integrated. How would they function in life? This is basically a reality check. And the reality is there are things that you need to do in life. Bills to pay, the rent to pay, or the mortgage, kids, dropping them off at school, taking out the garbage, and little things, worried about whether or not you've lodged your tax return as well. So if you're going to have to end up doing it all yourself, you're not going to love your partner anymore. The love you just die. So doesn't matter how beautiful or good looking they are, how many talents they've got, but do they have talents in life? Can they handle life's issues and tasks and situations? Because it needs to be done. And if they don't do it, you're going to have to. So you really need to think about the person that you marry, whether or not how your lives will be once you are. And that is the reason why so many marriages fail, because they fail from the start because they've chosen the wrong partner from the start. And because they haven't been taught how to choose. What's important? What qualities does the partner need to have when you're in a marriage and going through life? Okay? Because the less pressure and less stress, the better it is. And the longer the marriage would last. And how do you do that? Is by being able to cope with life. Things that life throws you and all the stuff that you need to handle in life. And unfortunately, no one teaches us how to choose and why, and that it is so important that you choose the right partner in the first place. Sets the tone for things to come. And because we are not taught and we don't understand that, that's why so many of us choose the wrong partner in life. And that's why so many of us will marry the wrong partner in life. As you can see, evident by the 50% divorce rate in Western society, at least. And another reason why it's so important to choose the right partner, because relationships impact your life, and they impact your life very heavily. Nothing impacts your life and the direction it takes more than the person you choose to share it with. And that impact can either be negative, neutral, or positive on your life, which is the one we all want. We all want the person that we choose to be our life partner to have a positive impact on our life. It's obvious we want happiness, and why would we want it to go down? Why would we want someone that's going to cause our life to go downwards and have a negative impact on our life? But how do relationships impact on our life? Now, how they impact on our life and how a particular relationship impacts on our life is of utmost importance, clearly. Because think about this. Why do we seek love? Why do so many of us want a relationship? Obviously, we hope it brings something good. Otherwise, we would not be seeking it, nor have you ever met anyone that wants something that would bring misery to their lives, have you? We look for love because we want to find happiness. Because love makes us happy as well. However, love alone is not enough. Because as things in life don't always go the way we want it. Most people haven't had an overtly positive experience with relationships. That's why there's so many exes, because they did not work out. Or relationships haven't positively impacted your life, or to put it this way, your life was better without them in it. It's sad to say. Well, some lucky ones have hit the jackpot and found eternal love and lived a life of happiness. And that's a great thing for them, and that's what we always aspire to. But how does a partner impact your life? I'm going to clarify. There are three main ways they impact on our life. Firstly is the neutral effect. The first is they have no impact or a neutral effect on our lives. They neither add much to your life or help you in life. However, on the other hand, they don't really cause problems either. So it's like couples who live pretty much separate lives and don't have much to do with each other or each other's lives. Not necessarily that you choose things that way. Usually when you have a problem, they are either not in a position or don't have the skills to help you. For example, you might have a problem at work with the politics, and because your partner's never worked in corporate, they would not be able to understand, let alone be able to discuss the issues with you and help you to come to a solution. Or you might be running your own business and need a trusted person to look after the financial part, and because your partner has no financial understanding, they would not be able to help with what you need help on. So on the other hand, they don't cause problems for you either, like overspend money, which because it affects both your finances, would also affect you separately and individually. So it's almost like they're there, either they're there or not, doesn't really matter. Fortunately, that's the case. Now, the second effect is unfortunately one which is the most common, that they have a negative effect on our life. And this is the reason why people divorce. For one would not be divorcing a partner that is making their lives happy, would they? I mean, you wouldn't divorce someone that's making you happy or bringing you happiness, or living with them makes you happy, would you? No. And truly, those that have a negative effect on your life is the stuff of relationship nightmares. Not only do they not add anything to your life, but they also cause problems, grief, and hold you back in life, if not drag you down. An extreme example is if your partner's a gambler. Okay, and because of that, you are always under financial stress, as every bit of saving that you manage will either have been taken away by them to gamble, or you might have to cover all expenses yourself, as all their money has gone on to gambling. A not so obvious example, though, is if you are operating your own business. Not only do they not help, but they get in the way as well. They might question everything you do, insist on spending money that should be going back into the business, or keep complaining that you are not spending enough time with them, when especially if you are at the setting up stage of your business. And it's taking up a lot of your time without any money coming in as yet. Yeah, it's only coming in once you're established and got the ball rolling. So now, before you all jump up and down about what I just said, I will explain in detail later in my later shows. If you happen to be one of many who have had bad experiences with relationships, and now hear all this, everything I've said so far, you would of course wonder if you should even bother having a relationship at all. I think, well, what good will it do for me? Well, the good news is a relationship with the right partner will bring in a huge positive boost to your life in ways you wouldn't even realize, like your career, finances, life in general, and most importantly, all the love that you will always be getting, and the feeling that you mean more than anything in the world to someone. Wouldn't that be a great feeling? And I guess that's something we all want. If you want to change careers, with the right partner, then they will discuss the issue with you and work out a solution with you. If you want to start a business, then they would not only be willing, but also have the skills and the knowledge to discuss and work out a plan together. And they may even have the skills to work in it with you, or as it would take some time for a business to take off and have money coming in, be willing to be the partner that will continue working to provide an income in the meantime. Can you imagine how much a greater help that would be? Because here, your partner in life will literally be that someone which you will hold hands with and walk through the path of life together. A partner to you that will support you in everything that you do. That support will be both emotional, financial, and whatever way they can support you. And later, in my later shows, I will explain what that means in practice. And on that, we'll go to some music and we'll be right back with more. Now, a bit on what's been happening in relationship news. I'm not sure if people have heard of the Hansel twins, conjoined twins. Well, they've been very famous, actually probably the most famous conjoined twins in the world. Now, for people that are not aware and not familiar with the term, conjoined twins meaning twins that were stuck together, that are still stuck together after being born. And that happens when, with regular identical twins, you have one fertilized egg splitting into two. And so that's why they should look the same, generally look the same. However, with conjoined twins, the separation isn't complete, and so they're still joined a bit somewhat, and they start developing in the womb like that with some joining of each other. Now, the joining can be in a lot of places, either skin, stomach, or sometimes head as well, in the skull. And in some cases, after they're born, doctors can separate them into two so they can lead separate lives. However, it depends on how they're joined. It's more like a flesh thing. If they're just joined in the stomach without organs being shared, then that's pretty easy. So it's more like just almost a cosmetic separation with one knife, and they're two whole. Though sometimes I do see them. Maybe the twins have everything, but only have one set of legs. So if you split them in half, they're going to be living with one leg. And I guess it's up to the parents what they try to do, whether or not they want to split them or keep them conjoined as they are. Now, this pair of twins called Abby and Brittany Hansel, they were born with the top. They've got two heads and only two arms. So the top they share, I think, separate heads, hearts and lungs, but one digestive tract. And the bottom, like one reproductive system and one set of legs. So two legs, two arms, two heads. And so the parents have made the decision not to separate them because, as you can imagine, with those amount of shared organs, you'll basically be sacrificing one child, getting rid of one head and so forth, so the other can live a normal life. And so because of that, they've decided to keep them together. And there have been documentaries and so forth with the twins over the years, how they progress from when they're young until they're adult, till the teenage years, how can progress with living a life conjoined together like that. And apparently one side, one girl controls one hand, either the right hand, and the left head controls the left hand arm. And so they've had their lives documented in a US reality series and have now transitioned from a duo to a trio. You know, they've decided to get married. Well, first of all, the Hansel twins have done pretty well for themselves. They are now school teachers. Went to university and are now qualified school teachers, which that's what they've done. And they appeared, I guess, from what I heard, they appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 1996, explaining about their lives as conjoined twins. And now, apparently, they were born with a rare condition, two heads on a single body with one genital system, two arms and two hearts and two legs. So they share one bloodstream and all the organs below the waist. And Abby controls the right arm and leg, and Brittany controls the left side, the left arm and leg. Okay. The parents decided not to separate then because, how do you pick between the two? He said before, you have to sacrifice one for the other. And despite the complications of life as conjoined twins, they haven't let it hold them down from achieving things like they got a driver's license test. They passed their driver's license test at 16. They graduated from college. They traveled to Europe, and they've both got a teaching degree. So they're actually two school teachers. Okay, and now recently we've heard the news that they've decided to get married. Well, they have gotten married, and it's always been the thing with only one genital system. Do they marry one person or two? Do they marry one man or two men? Legally, there are two people. But, your reproductives is only one that's shared. So if they do become mums, they'll both become mums in one of them. So now they've gotten married. Or more correctly, one of them has gotten married. Abby. The left-sided twin has gotten married to Josh Bowling. As we heard, he was a nurse and a U.S. Army veteran. And they live in Minnesota, where the twins were initially born and raised. So the twins are now 34. And, they've been living private lives. And Abby and Josh kept their marriage under wraps from the public eye. Apparently, they were married in 2021, and we did not know about it. And until 2023, and now it's just basically hit the news here that we know. And they quite recently, only last year, shared their wedding photos of the ceremony. Abby and her sister wore one dress, obviously, an all-white sleeveless bridal gown and lace-back dress. And the groom, Bowling, wore a grey suit. And so far, there's been no word on whether or not they plan on extending their family, like having children. There's been no rush because the groom already, as we understand, already has a child from a prior relationship. So how is it going to work with them being mums if they decide to have a child? Obviously, okay, the first thing people think of is there's going to be 3 people in the bed, okay? And if the husband makes love to his bride, his wife, well, the sister-in-law is also there, and it's also, in effect, making love with the sister-in-law as well. And if they have they get pregnant, it'll be both of the child that belongs to both of them. Obviously. And you know what? If you think about it with identical twins, the child of one twin is basically genetically also the child of the other twin because the genetics are absolutely the same. So I guess in any paternity test, both of them would read as fathers. So if we're just going on that basis, it's not that not a far reacher on how you can think about it, how you think about it. Well, that's the relationship news for this week, and we'll go to some music and we'll be right back. And I hope everyone's enjoyed the show for today. I mean, we've gone through Tim Tszyu's chart, the Australian boxer that is the son of the very famous Costa Tszyu. His father was really something, world champion for quite a while. And Tim, since turning professional in 2016, has not lost a match, and he became world champion. And so on the 30th of March, he was to do a bout to defend his title. And apparently, now, that match was a bit funny in terms of circumstances that's happened. Apparently, he was supposed to fight, I think, Keith Thurman, but I think Keith had an injury, and so Sebastian Fundora was substituted instead, like 12 days before the bout on the 30th of March. And what happened? It was strange. because Fundora was like 20 centimeters taller than Tim, towers over him, managed to inadvertently knock his elbow and cause a gash on Tim's head. It was a big gash and it had blood flowing all down his face. And for some reason, the match was not stopped for medical reasons, which I thought it should have. And I don't know why they did not even bandage that part of. It kept going down, running down his face. And obviously, it hindered and affected his performance because prior to that, based on their ability alone, everyone thought that Tim would win. I mean, thought that he should win. But because of that, then he ended up losing on a split decision when he dominated the match, the entirety of the match from the start until he got that cut up. And so I thought with the strange circumstances, I'll do a reading on him and in particular that day and see why that he lost. And obviously with Tim, that day was not a good day for him. It was bad. He is a follow the power person where he doesn't like water. It's itself, even though his daymaster is water, he doesn't like it. And in particular on that day regarding his luck cycle. And so I also thought to check his opponent Fundora's chart as well. And Fundora is all water, basically, so much water. And the interaction between him and Tim's luck cycle and his chart created so much water on Tim, which he does not like. And the other thing is, being in March, which was a rabbit month, and Fundora also having the rabbit on his luck cycle also locked up Tim's dogs, which are his mainstay, which is what was doing the work for him. So that, in effect, was hard for him. So looking at the odds, it wasn't great. At that time, he was in a weaker period, and especially with that opponent that had all the elements that was bad for Tim, I can see why he lost. Okay. And looking at Fundora's chart, he's in that cycle where that's bad for Tim until the end of 2028. So my advice to Tim is make sure you don't fight him again until after that period. Now, I know after the match, there was a lot of talk about it. Well, the immediate talk was a rematch because of these unfair circumstances that happened, these mitigating circumstances, and apparently they had a verbal agreement before the match that whatever the outcome, there would be a rematch and so forth. However, there's been a couple of other things being thrown in now. One, apparently Tim is now medically suspended until at least May, and Fundora can't fight until November. And apparently they had lined other people that he needed to fight to defend his title against. And one was that Keith Thurman, which was supposed to have fought Tim Tszyu, but didn't because of some injury, and someone else. So if I was Tim, and I was giving advice to Tim, actually, I'm giving advice to you now, is just let Fundora fight the other two. Okay? And then if he loses to either of those, and then you fight those ones that he's lost to. Because I've heard that he's actually beaten one of those two before previously, yeah? And so in that respect, depending on what their chart is, I can have a look at that in this next match, but and see what his chances are. But in the meantime, I do not recommend that he fight Fundora again. Do not rematch with him. Okay, sometimes, like I said, it's not your ability, how good you are. It's whether or not things go your way at that time. Because you could be the same person making the same type of decisions. Then, as you say, as you look back on your life, there's certain times when things tend to go your way and you're strong, you're pulling off everything, right? And you think you're great. But at other times, no matter how hard you try, things just don't seem to go your way. It's like trying to run uphill or swim against the tide. It's absolutely exhausting and you don't get anywhere. And apart from the astrology, also date selection as well, because they affect your chart. So as well, the day, whether or not it's favorable to you as well. As I demonstrated in Tim's case, that day was not favorable to him. It actually assisted in a roundabout way, his opponent. Okay, and that is why date selection, it has been offered and done quite a lot of times. And you know what? I found out that apparently, like I said, major historical powerful figures have used astrology, and in particular Stalin and Hitler. And Hitler did not do any action before he checked with his astrologer as to what to do and when to do it at. So, people can rubbish it all they want and think it's nonsense, but when you have people in power using it, then it doesn't matter what they say. That's the old adage. Don't, ignore what they say. Just follow what they do. And what they do is they used astrology because, obviously it's worked for them. And if something works for you, you don't have to believe in it, so to speak, as a theoretical, but you use it. And why not? If it's getting results for you. Like obviously with Hitler, it did, and I have to say I did not look at Hitler's chart, but it'd be interesting to see when his power started to diminish and how that related to his chart and the timing of it as well. Because at times, no matter how you might know it, with the astrology, what it does is it gives you pre-warning and pre-knowledge but at times where you can't do anything about it. There are actually solutions that we can do if you are going through a bad period in your life, a weak period, but that's a discussion for another day. But you can clearly see how powerful astrology is and how useful a tool it is. Seeing that they demonstrated from Tim Tszyu's match, and that even major powerful figures in the past, wielding a lot of power, making all these important decisions, that would not do anything unless they check the astrology first. Okay? And like I was saying, if it's good enough for them and it's worked for them, obviously it would work for us as well. So if you're thinking of doing in business, having wanting to have career ambitions and so forth, or general planning in your life, then I always recommend getting an astrology reading done. And you can book a reading with me on my website, missdragonfly.com. And the other thing you use is the Hansel twins, the famous conjoined Hansel twins, where they share all the same organs from the waist down. So in effect, they're stuck together literally and figuratively for the rest of their lives. Do you have to do everything together, share their life together, and including in this time getting married as well. Even though they're in effect one body, they're legally two people. Brittany and Abby Hansel, and only Abby was the one that got married to the husband, Bowling. So not sure how they work out the dynamics of the bedroom situation and the interactions, and what happens if the other twin, Brittany, falls in love with someone else. So those are a lot of complications and issues they have to work through. Not only practical issues, moral issues, ethical issues, and I guess legal issues as well, as to what happens when there's one body and two heads two independent minds that love two different people. Literally, that is a very rare situation, and I guess for most people, I guess almost actually everyone would not like to be in those shoes. So that's the show. I hope you've enjoyed it. So please leave your comments on my Facebook page as to what you think. As with every show, I do a posting on what the show is about. So leave your comments there. And if there's anything you'd like me to cover, then please feel free to also leave the suggestion there. And if I'm able to cover it, then I will. So I hope you've enjoyed the show, and remember to tune in same time next week. So until then, it's bye for now.